Okay, so if I can start, let me just briefly introduce myself. I work for GAR as an identity specialist. I'm currently in GAR. I'm responsible for the National Identity Federation dedicated to research and education, that is called EDEM. And 50% of my time is devoted to the EduGAIN FAM25 projects, within which I'm the task leader of task 2, which is about EduGAIN. So historically, EduGAIN has been funded via the EduGAIN project. So the task leader of this task dedicated to EduGAIN is also the EduGAIN service owner, which is basically the role that I play in the context of EduGAIN. So everything wrong with EduGAIN, as I usually say, um, you know who you have to point your finger to. So, but let me just go through the few things I would like to talk about this brief overview about EduGAIN. So first of all, why EduGAIN? Why we need EduGAIN? What is the problem that we are trying to solve with EduGAIN? What is governance of EduGAIN? What about the current participants? And a brief overview of current strategy and roadmap. And also some details about something that we have launched very recently, which is this OpenID Federation pilot for EduGAIN. So let me just start quickly. First of all, why EduGAIN? Well, EduGAIN is defined as an interfederation service, and an interfederation service supposed to be to enable users from an identity federation to consume services published by another identity federation. And the use case for this is global research, international access to resources that supposedly should be used for doing international research. But the foundation of these are identity federations. So let me just briefly give you the details about what is an identity federation. Well, usually we define an identity federation as a collection of organizations that agrees to interoperate under a common set of rules. And these rules are about the legal framework, the policies, technical profiles, and standards that everybody is supposed to agree with and use to interoperate. And inside the identity federation, there is a special role for the party that is granting the trust among all the participants. And this party is the so-called trusted third party, is a federation operator. And federation operators are really crucial, not just for identity federations, but also, as we will see, for extending this trust from inside just one, usually national identity federation, to the international use cases, which is what EduGAIN is about. Again, what is the problem that EduGAIN is trying to solve? Well, here you have a Federation Blue and a Federation Green, and let's say that these are just two national federations. So what happens if a group of users from Federation Blue would like to use a service that is published by Federation Green? Well, without EduGAIN, the only way for this to work would be for the service provider in Federation Green to register in Federation Blue, or for the identity provider of Federation Blue to register in Federation Green. Well, with more than 80 identity federations around the world, and literally thousands of identity providers and service providers, this could be nothing but a big nightmare. So imagine the amount.
Davide, are you still there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. I don't know what the glitch was, but we're back.
Okay, great. So I think I've stopped on probably the number of the high amount of bilateral agreements. Yeah, that's okay. So yeah, again, if we do the math, we have thousands of identity providers, thousands of service providers, 80 federation. If you do the math, the amount of bilateral agreement to support international use cases would be really staggering. Even if you think that just a few percentage of services could be used in international use cases, but then usually the number of universities in one country that are participating to international research is, well, the majority. So this is why EduGAIN is useful. Um, and this is the problem EduGAIN is trying to solve. And of course, to do this, apart from this very simplistic use case, we have to consider that the EduGAIN ecosystem is more complex than that, because we have national federations that are based on a full mesh architecture, like JISC and like EDEM, for example, or like in Common. But then we have identity federations that instead are based on an hub and spoke architecture, where they have a central component that connects all the services, all the authentication system, so all the identity providers in the federation. And through that central component, they expose their services and their authentication systems to EduGAIN. We also have big proxies that are used mainly for international research collaborations that are rooted in specific federations, but to be honest, they are so big, and usually they have their own policy. They have a really high number of services that probably they should also be considered um, as complex as an entire federation. So this is the complex ecosystem with which we have to deal with. And it's not always easy to make everything works, but so far, at least for a very, how can I say, baseline of trust and access, EduGAIN works. More complex use cases are difficult to deal with in EduGAIN, but as we will see later, we are working on that. So what about the governance and participants? Well, EduGAIN governance is based on the participants themselves. So every time that an identity federation joins EduGAIN, they designate an EduGAIN delegate and a deputy, at least 2 persons. And this person participate to the EduGAIN assembly. The EduGAIN assembly is to approve new membership request. So they can become EduGAIN participants and feed to the EduGAIN assembly itself. And the other duty is to nominate the EduGAIN steering committee. This is a quite recent change from previous governance, where the EduGAIN assembly was also the governing body of EduGAIN, but that was not really feasible and difficult to work with because, as you can imagine, being EduGAIN actually counting around 82 federations, the number of delegates and deputies is 164. So not really easy as a governing body. That's why we decided to change the constitution, and of course we that change was approved by the EduGAIN Assembly. This is another duty of the EduGAIN Assembly, even though not really played frequently, hopefully. And we changed the constitution to create this board, the EduGAIN Steering Committee, which is a more practical governing body because it is composed by 7 people. We have a chair, and the vice chair of the EduGAIN Steering Committee is the EduGAIN service owner. So in this case, that's me. Until, of course, the end of Gen 5.2 project, and then maybe something different will happen. The duties of the EduGAIN Steering Committee is basically 2, again. One is to approve the EduGAIN technology profiles. The EduGAIN technology profiles is the foundation of the policies and the technical standards and specifications that we use in EduGAIN. We have an EduGAIN technological profile for SAML, and we're also developing an EduGAIN technological profile for OpenID Federation, and this is what the pilot is about. And of course, they approve changes to these profiles. And the other duty of the EduGAIN Steering Committee is to define an EduGAIN work plan, which is about what we're going to do for this year and next year. So very similar to a short roadmap. Among all of these, we have also on the top left, you can see, is EduGAIN Executive Committee that is supervising the work of the EduGAIN Steering Committee. But this supervised power is not really, again, used much. The current EduGAIN Executive Committee is the GÉANT board, as GÉANT is the body through which we receive funding. And just to make a very simple example, the only time that the EduGAIN Executive Committee did something in the life of EduGAIN has been a few years ago, when the European Commission decided that they want to cut all the relationship with Russia, and so it was prohibited to use any European funding to maintain relationship with Russia. So we had to expel the 2 Russian federations that were participating to EduGAIN at that time. And this is the only, and of course it was a very sad thing and a very comprehensible thing at the same time. And that was the only time when the EduGAIN Executive Committee actually told us what to do. Otherwise, we don't have basically any relationship with the GÉANT board. So what about a few numbers? As I've already told you, we currently have 82 federations, almost 10,000 entities, and this is mostly identity providers, so universities and research centers, and almost 4,000 services that are service providers. And these numbers has been updated yesterday, so they're quite recent. So the orange countries in this map are the EduGAIN participants, the blue one are candidates currently. What I can say about this map is that recently we had quite an interesting growth in Africa. So a few years ago, Africa was basically gray in EduGAIN. Now is slowly but steadily coloring orange, which is very nice. And the same is true for East Asia. So these 2 regions are currently the 2s that are growing more. And as you can see, the North America and Europe are basically all there. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about the EduGAIN strategy and roadmap. And time-wise, there will be time, I hope, for a few questions. So the EduGAIN strategy is something that we didn't have until last year, basically, and we try to come up with usual stuff for a strategy, so mission statement, vision, first of all, and so our mission is what you can read here, but the most important thing is that for EduGAIN to being able to provide a foundational trust framework for international use cases. And the second part, of course, of this mission is that our aim is exactly to connect to let organizations connect to international services. So this is exactly what we must do, and it's really our mission. So in order to accomplish this mission, our vision is that EduGAIN must be recognized as the globally trusted infrastructure for research and education. And so currently, we don't have any big competitor, but you can say that the competition here is more about fighting against fragmentation. So a kind of polarization that is achieved and or try to achieve through comprehensive platforms like those provided by the big vendors, being that Microsoft, being that Google. Why do I need EduGAIN if, for example, a university in the Sussex can share services and identities with a university in Germany through the Google platform or the Microsoft platforms? So this kind of fragmentation is what we are basically trying to fight with. And again, what we think is crucial to achieve this vision and accomplish our mission is that EduGAIN is able to provide authentic, accurate, and interoperable metadata. This is the way we can extend the trust from a single federation, national federation, to the international use cases. And of course, on top of these, there are a number of core values that we believe in, and we think the whole community, the research and education community worldwide, at least tried to implement in their services and well, even in their behaviors somehow. And these core values are the open standard, transparency, digital equity, neutrality, and trust. And these are really the values that we try to implement in the services and in the policy framework also that are sustaining EduGAIN. And just to finish this brief overview about the EduGAIN strategy, there are a number of critical success factors that the EduGAIN steering committee defined, and a number of goals that we think we need to reach in order to fulfill this strategy. And unsurprisingly, most of these are dealing with making EduGAIN even more trustworthy and useful than it is today. And we think these two aspects, trustworthiness and usefulness, are really dependent. So you can't have one without the other. So I don't want to go through each of these critical success factors and goals. I've just put here in the slides for reference. But again, I think what we have to stress on is the effort to improve the trustworthiness and doing that the usefulness of EduGAIN for international use cases. Just to give you an overview on what we're working on practically, this is the EduGAIN roadmap for this year. We have core services that are the services used to well, do our main job, which is collect metadata from national identity federations, aggregate them, and distribute them to the international community. And JISC is also participating, contributing to the core services as JISC is part of the EduGAIN operational team. And I have really to thank you for being so generous to share the time of one of your digital identity expert for the EduGAIN OT. And for the core services, as you can see here, we are working mainly on developing a multi-site architecture. And also we are working on an entity filtering functionality. And this is part of our efforts to improve trustworthiness of EduGAIN. So currently EduGAIN does not have any kind of entity filtering policy. But given that we are thinking about introducing some, then we need to be technically ready to do it. And this is why we're also developing this. Then we have a secretariat function for which we are continuously refining the candidates and membership process for EduGAIN. And then the aim here is to have better prepared candidates. In the past, we had identity federations that joined EduGAIN at the same time when we were building the identity federation. So they were not really technically ready. And so we're now improving the process by requesting more technical readiness. And this is paying back. It's more time consuming and painful, but it's paying back, definitely paying back. As for the governance, finally, we have a strategy to enhance the level of trust of EduGAIN. So this is a great accomplishment. Then we have a number of so-called check-in services inside EduGAIN or site services. One is the EduGAIN connectivity check service, for which we have new functionalities that are going to be implemented quite soon. And we have release check. We adopted MET. MET was a service provided by REFED, which is the group of the federation operators of the research and education identity federations. Unfortunately, they were not able to maintain MET anymore, so they asked us if we could, maintain it and then sustain it. So currently, we are basically providing how is called something like a very basic live support for MET, but we are not doing any new development on it, which is very much needed. And we are trying to set up a team to do that as soon as possible. And then we have a project that is called FTX for EduGAIN, which is basically a way to collect statistics and a reporting site that is quite useful to know, for example, if an federation is reporting an entity category or how do they score according to some of the parameters we usually use to judge the maturity of an identity federation. Then we have a support function. We have an EduGAIN CSORT. This has been introduced firstly as a security team. Then it developed, I think it was 3 years ago, into a fully fledged CSORT with RFC 2350 and terms of reference. And we're also organizing a tabletop exercise on how to manage incidents at the EduGAIN level. And then we have this quite big thing that is the work on OpenID Federation, which currently is entering the most interesting phase, which is a pilot, about which I will talk briefly, so I will not spend any more time. But this is just to give you an overview of, among other things like continuous service improvements and maintaining, of course, the availability of the current services. These are just a glimpse on what we're working on this year. So let me just close this brief overview with some details on this OpenID Federation pilot that we're working on. First of all, why? Why we're doing this? Well, we know that research and education and federation and EduGAIN itself are based on SAML 2.0, but SAML 2.0 is definitely a legacy protocol. The technical committee of Oasis that was supervising work on SAML 2.0 closed 6 years ago. No new standards has been developed in the last years, and SAML is not dead, absolutely. Is alive, but is legacy. So no new development is happening on SAML nowadays. On the other hand, the industry, the dynamic web and the cloud services are currently based on both 2.0 and OpenID Connect 1.0. And these two standards are great, well, to let's say they did have a great success, but they lack completely any kind of federation technology. This is why an effort rooted in our community in research and education started, I think it was, well, not 10 years ago, but 9 years ago, to create a standard, a federation standard that could enhance the trust for WORth 2.0 and OpenID Connect 1.0 authentication flows. And of course, we are talking about multilateral federation, like those that we are currently using in identity federations and EduGAIN. So OpenID Federation is a standard quite different from what we have in SAML. For SAML, we have a number of specifications that can be used to build the federation, but we don't have something called SAML 2.0 identity federations. And in the case of OpenID Federation, it's different because this specification has been created by people that contributed also to the success of the SAML Federation. So what they try to do is to have just one specification that is defining all and everything about how a federation should work. So it's kind of holistic attempt, and is targeting specifically WORth 2.0 and OpenID Connect 1.0. The other thing that is important to say is that OpenID Federation is also used can be used for verifiable credentials use case, which is the foundation for the so-called wallet and the European Digital Identity Wallet as well. even though lately, I mean, OpenID Federation is one of the selected use case to convey the trust layer for the EU ID wallet. But apparently, who's going to win here is trusted lists. So basically the same model that we have for the browser certification authorities. We will see. I hope that this is not the last word, but we will see. The other thing is that has the EduGAIN service and the Trust and Identity Incubator, which is an activity inside the Giant project, are actively working on trying to develop profiles and tools for OpenID Federation to be used by the research and education community. So OpenID Federation itself is a trust framework. It employs a hierarchical trust model, which is different from what we have in SAML, where we have just one layer of trust. So we have entities and the trusted third party in the national federation. When these entities are exported by the national federation inside EduGAIN, we lose the original third party, and this third party is substituted by EduGAIN as third party. And I say this because while it is true that in the metadata in EduGAIN, you can still read the registration authority, so you still know that an entity has been imported by, say, JISC into EduGAIN, but then the signature, the digital signature in the metadata is coming from EduGAIN, and you lose the digital signature coming from JISC. So you cannot cryptographically go from EduGAIN to the final entity passing through the digital signature of JISC. And so there is a lot of trust in EduGAIN in this way. In the case of OpenID Federation, the full trust chain is maintained because it's a PKI that is using JSON Web Tokens instead of X509 certificates, but the final result is the same. And the other thing that OpenID Federation is defining is a system to distribute signed metadata. Again, this is something that we don't have in SAML, not in just one specification. Of course, we do have MDQ. Of course, we do have some specification saying how to sign metadata, but not everyone in just one place. And that is also talking about how to convey the trust. And so this is why OpenID Federation is this kind of holistic attempt. Just to give you also some more details, there are a number of items that OpenID Federation has defined, but I think my time is flying. I'm very close, so let me just finish this presentation. Again, these terms are here just for reference, but the important thing about OpenID Federation, as I was saying, is the trust chain, is the fact that it provides a trust chain by which you can go from the single entity to the top level trust anchor, which is in our use case is EduGAIN, verifying each step cryptographically. And this is an example of a trust chain. It's quite complex, but what you want to look for is the fact that you have a number of signatures that are applied on each of these JSON objects, JSON Web Tokens, that is linking literally each entity statement or metadata, as we used to call them, from the single final entity passing by an intermediate authority, which is, in our case, an identity federation, to the top-level trust anchor, which is EduGAIN in our use case. So here are some details about the OpenID Federation pilots. Again, it's just for reference. I don't want to spend a lot of time here, but the only thing that is interesting is that it is starting in these days and it will last 12 months. This is a diagram on how we have set up the infrastructure for these pilots. And here is a work plan for the pilot itself. With this, let me just go very quickly to the conclusions, which is just a summary of what we have talked about. And if you have any questions, I'm here and will be happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Davide. Due to the nature of the room's questions, it might be better to feed them back in our next session and I could pass them on. But if anybody's got a quick question now.
Yeah, the competitor, I didn't hear who the competitor was.
Davide, who did you define as the competitor?
Yes. So as I was saying, I don't see any concrete competitor at the global level. The real competition for EduGAIN is to being able to provide is to fight the how can I say, different ways to accomplish the same mission and the same results, which is again support international use cases with open standards and with a solution that is provided by the research and education community itself with the identity federations. The competitors to this model are can be seen as big platforms and vendors like, again, Google and Microsoft that may, and actually they do, address these international use cases by just letting final users, providers of services use the same their own platforms for supporting international use cases. So this is the real competition. So more than someone like a global competitor that is trying to do the same thing that as EduGAIN is doing.
Okay, thank you very much, Davide. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Okay, I'm going to leave you to the Italian sunshine now. So I'm assuming. Thank you, Davide.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone.